Right, next investigation. No, the Southport thing, right, has been in the news yet again. Right? And so was the Ian Huntley one. Yeah, the Ian Huntley one was back in the news last week. Right? And the Southport one's back in the news just in the last couple of days. Right? So basically, right, these was both social programming, PSY-OPS, right? And you see how they're both sewer, right? You got a sewer harm and the Southport, right? So they're both sewer, right? Which is social programming, right? As well as so Mote It Be, right? Relates to this one, another soil. So Mote It Be. Which basically means that, right? The Beatles song. We're talking about these two PSY-OPS with Suam and Southport. Well, basically, like part 1 and part 2 of the same type of PSY-OP, which was basically to advance multiculturalist agenda. Right? So basically, the first one was to turn like native Britons into hating their own type of peoples, right? Thus sort of, making the multiculturalist type aspect be more acceptable. Now if you see there, right, M-A-S-U-N. So again, Mason murders, right? Pure PSY-OPS. Now the second part was this, which was the African immigrant, right? Born in Cardiff, Wales, to Rwandan parents, right? So you got the magic wand again. They're talking about the Rwanda plan for years in advance of this, right? So the Rwanda, the magic wand. So this was part of the same PSY-OP where they were putting the idea of Rwanda, right, in your mind. And this was part 2 of the same PSY-OP, right? But just like it introduced 9/11, introduced Muslimism, right? They're introducing these ones as the idea of a monster, right? So you're going to get Somalians, Rwandans, and these type of Africans coming into the country, just like you did after 9/11. You take first of all a monster idea, and then 20 years later, like Islams are all almost running the country. You see what I mean? So you're going to get loads of Africans, basically. And with the Rwanda, right? You're talking about the magic wand, and again, basically coming from the African lands, like voodoo, black magic, and they are that. Wand, cup, sword, and pentacle. So again, it's to do with these magic spells, with PSY-OPS and magic spells. So you had this Rwanda plan, which was about on the news for a while. That it wasn't lawful. Of course, to bring them in the first place is unlawful, right? So it's like they apply the unlawful idea when they're taking them out, right? But when they're bringing them in, that is also unlawful, but they're still bringing them in. It's purposefully done. And obviously 700 million so just went missing in the bank accounts, end off before end off, isn't it? Again, this first one was to demonise the old-fashioned native British society, right, and basically turn people against their own, native peoples, right. And I've noticed that the peoples are generally friendlier, right. When you take like native British, ethnic British, they generally like immigrant types more than their own type of native ones. I've noticed that. Which is just due to the brainwashing that's been over so many years, PSY-OPS like this, of course, went to bring that about. I was saying the monster idea applied to this one, right? So basically the idea is to bring the native Britons and the ethnic Britons in line with like immigrants, like African and Indian immigrants and all that, right? Not to bring them the other way, like not to bring the immigrants up to the level of native Britain standards, but to bring the native Britain standards down to the levels of immigrants, right? So basically, the wages will go down, like for importing cheap labour and all that type of thing. Everything will go that way. That's the plan. Right? To bring the native ones down to that level and give them the same rights, which is basically slave labour rights, as these new imports. You had this at the time when that Ian Huntley's latest piece was reported, where he was supposed to have been bashed in jail and then died as a result of it. Right? And this was like, I know that this particular character here was broadcasting it from Thailand. Right? That's sort of said. He said he was broadcasting it from Thailand. Right? And the whole thing is bacon this, bacon that. Like everything's about bacons, right? And apparently the bacon is a child molester type idea. Right? Now this is interesting because obviously Jews and Islams don't eat pork. Right? Now one of the latest words, what they call white British, native Britons, is basically gammons. Right? So it seems to be a conspiracy against native Britons. Right? And basically how the stream thing was just calling bacons, and it's basically, like I say, it's playing into this idea of demonising the white society in order to the multiculturalism. Now basically had a account in the chat, and I was mentioning things like immigrations and all this, and just no one was wanted to know about it. It was basically, let's bash like this bacon type idea. It's a very suspicious type of little Masonic operation. Right? Of course, the sewer harm, right? The sewer harm and the gammon. So something about, as I say, it was a demonised native British population with regard to the new multiculturalism coming in. Right? Pinkish red face, pinkish red. So basically, I'd say like a racist name. It's, as I said before, it's alright to be racist against white peoples, but not against obviously black peoples. Of course, it's basically a friendly veil type of thing, saying you're a white pig, that's basically it. So I'd say, all part of a spell, right, to bring in a new multicultural society. See there, he recounts the spread of the art of geometry in diverse lands. The craft of masonry brought to England during the reign of King Athelstan. So the multicultural society, see, is what they're trying to bring about.